is a presentation of the Match Talk Podcast Network. It's time for the ODU Wrestling Monarch Matchcast, a show dedicated to all things related to the Old Dominion Wrestling program. On the web at monarchmatcast.com. Now, here's your host, three-time National Wrestling Writer and Broadcaster of the Year, and 2004 ODU alumnus, Jason Bryant.
That's Mike Dixon. We're here in Fargo, North Dakota, the Monarch Matchcast on location, as this is the biggest tournament in terms of recruiting for so many college programs. Granted, it's freestyle and Greco-Roman here on day two. Coach Dixon, this has been an annual pilgrimage for you and Coach Martin and pretty much every other college coach in Division I in the country. What's the significance for those who are unfamiliar with the Cadet and Junior Nationals here in Fargo?
It just gets you exposed to really the best wrestlers in the country. Our philosophy and, studies will show that the best kids also wrestle in freestyle and Greco. I mean, you can go through NCAAs, the guys that are placing, the guys that are in the finals, they have a freestyle background. Not necessarily that folk style and freestyle are the same thing, but freestyle, we believe, helps teach you position. The kids that are exposed to the international style of wrestling, it's going to help them out scholastically. And so we always are looking for kids that are wrestling this type of style. Obviously it doesn't always translate, but competition is still competition.
Yeah, obviously NCAA rules prohibit us talking about specific athletes that have not signed letters of intent. But as an example, you just came up when we were talking about an athlete you were watching that lost a match, but because of their wrestling style, they're like, oh, he can shoot. He's a shooter here. The rules of freestyle are a little different, whereas the finishes that he gave up points were what they were. But you saw something that is like, ooh, this is promising.
Yeah, and like I said, he's a kid that lost first round. I'm actually trying to hunt down his coaches, see if I can get some contact info, and I do appreciate your help. But what I'm looking for is kids that wrestle hard for, in this case, 6 minutes, compete, and that's what I saw out of him. So now I'm going to try and figure out kind of what his options are, what his grades are like, and see if we can't get him on a visit.
Out here, recruiting is like a chess match some places where you're sitting there, you find a kid, you think he's a diamond in the rough, but in the back of your mind, sometimes you're hoping he doesn't do that great, so he only stays on your radar. That usually doesn't happen.
We want everybody to do the best that they can up to their ability. That's all I'm going to comment about that.
So when we come out here, I mean, this is old hat. You were on Team Virginia staff one of those years, 2 of those years. Made some bad decisions on where you were going for dinner, but in terms of being out here as a recruiting, I mean, you see a lot of college coaches that are on the coaching staffs, and you've done the recruiting and the coaching thing. What's it mean for schools to be involved with their programs? ODU assistants have been on staffs for years as well, but when going from a staff position to a recruiting position, what's cool about being on the staff here?
It's just you get exposed to a lot of kids that you wouldn't necessarily get exposed to. We got Daryl Thomas. He's out here. He's on Team Illinois staff right now. So we have a good pipeline. We have several Illinois kids. I want to say like 4 or 5 on our roster. We want to help keep that pipeline going. And, in Illinois, it seems like all the kids know each other, so it's very helpful for us. But it helps get you exposed. The kids get to know, when you're on staff, they get to know you on more of a personal level. Which, outside of the wrestling world, they want to be able to know that they can come to you about their problems, be able to talk to you, because as they start to grow and mature, they're going to encounter different things. And it's just good to get to know kids off the mat, not just in the wrestling aspect.
You mentioned Daryl Thomas. Kyle Hutter had been on the Illinois staff for a while. Hutter's left the program to pursue business interests outside of coaching. Josh Demas, who was with us for a year, he's left to also pursue other interests. But you got one new coach and one coach that's very familiar. Chris McCarty's on staff, and you mentioned Daryl Thomas. For those who are unfamiliar with Daryl Thomas, what's he bring to the table?
One of the hardest working coaches I've ever seen in my life. He's relentless. He seems to know or have contacts with just about everybody. In the room, he's been great for our guys. in terms of what he's been showing our guys. He can talk to them and relate to them. Obviously, he's a lot younger than me, but he's fit in really nicely with our program, and I know the guys are excited to see what he can bring to the table, and, we're very excited. This summer's been good for training, and we're hoping it'll continue.
Yeah, with Daryl's background, never an All-American in Illinois, made the show, was an assistant coach at another MAC school at Northern Illinois, was a head coach of a junior college. All those things coming together, do you think that lights his fire as a coach?
Absolutely. I know he wants to coach at the Division I level, so, we're glad we were able to have an opportunity for him. Like I said, he's been at the JUCO level, he's been in the MAC, so he's familiar with the types of kids we're looking for, we can recruit, the skill level, and he's been around the championship program before, so he knows what it takes to win a title, and hopefully he can pass it on to some of our guys, and hopefully we can get some titles.
Looking at the personnel, still some questions about who's going to go where. Obviously, losing All-American Kevin Beasley as a graduate transfer. That kind of stings a little bit as far as the lineup goes, but what are we looking for right now that you can say about next year's lineup?
Really about next year's lineup is we probably have 10 open weight classes is what I can honestly say. We do have some depth. So there will be competition, which, competition is always a good thing. But, in a lot of situations, these guys are going to have to figure it out, So to be honest with you, I couldn't even tell what our lineup is going to look like right now. But we do have people that when push comes to shove, they're going to have to compete and go earn a spot. We have a pretty similar schedule to what we had last year. We can't release it quite yet, but we're looking for a lot of these younger guys to kind of go out and take the next step. So we're hoping competition in the room will help breed some of that.
Down and back to coaches, Chris McCotty now on staff, and also starting a budding MMA career at the same time. And Chris is an athlete. What has Chris brought to the room already as a coach now?
Just the mindset of what it takes, and it's good that he's been there. He was there recently in terms of, I can't remember when he graduated, 2016. So, yeah, he's been on the podium. So having him in the room where he can tell the guys, look, this is what it takes. You need to eat like this, train like this. These are the types of things you have to do inside the room and outside the room. Academics, this is how you have to take it seriously so it affects the wrestling. A lot of those kids are going to listen a lot more to the words that come out of Chris's mouth than they do out of mine. So, Chris, he's been doing a great job with workouts, in July, and we're hoping that obviously continues to translate throughout the season.
What can we say or what can we not say about a transfer that may be coming in from the University of Pennsylvania?
I can't comment about anything right now.
Okay, so I will hint at this, and since we can't comment on somebody who's not, again, signed a letter of intent, his dad wrestled at ODU, so there's a hint, and his name may not sound like Aleb Richardson, so I don't know what it may or may not be. So, but anyway, back to Fargo here as we're on the floor in the Fargo. 23 mats. Most people that are college wrestling fans don't see anything of this volume, this size, especially at the Conson Center. The scope of this tournament is just gigantic.
You really have to know what you're looking for when you come here, because otherwise, it's kind of like you're just going to get lost. So, right now, what I generally do is I go through kids that I definitely know that I knew I wanted to take a look at, and from there I kind of expand. And like I said, there was another kid that I ended up liking just by sitting watching the match. So, once we're done here, I'm going to go try and hunt down his coach to see what info I can get on him.
As we circle back to the team again, off-season training, things of that nature, who are you kind of expecting to see the biggest jump, the biggest level, jump levels, so as they say, and really have a breakout year?
Really all of them. We have 2 returning national qualifiers, but, neither of them won matches at nationals. So, like I said, we're in a spot where we got 10 open weight classes, so we have the capability of guys getting onto the podium in our room. University Nationals, I think we saw some good things out of Keenan Carter, Steve Simpson, but they're still not at the level yet. They lost the tough guys. They lost the guys that have been in the podium. So there's still room to grow. But as far as who can make the big jump, I don't know. We got a lot of people that have been putting the time in, which that's important. That's part of the process. But, hopefully come March in Cleveland, hopefully we have several guys that are contending for titles or contending for All-American honors.
Mike Dixon, day 2 in Fargo. Monarch Matcast. We'll see. Actually, I'll be in town in a week. I'm not sure what. Get me that schedule. I can figure it out. So I got to make my one duel a year and my one football game.
I will do that, and I will say we should get a drink at the turf, but we have to wait for a year at that.
I've got a mug in my car, and I got a cooler full of libations, and I may just do that tonight.
That sounds wonderful.
Don't wear your shirt to that other place. Mike Dixon, thanks, man.
Show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.